What's up? Welcome to 22 Booker Podcast, brought to you by 22 Booker Entertainment. I'm your host, Corlandos, joined by my co host, Ryan Lipscomb, who's also the writer, director, and producer of the film Morning. Today, we're joined by a special guest, one of our producers on the film, Jamari Perry. What's up, Jamari?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Glad to be here.
Hey,
What's going on?
people don't understand the technical skills that it takes to get in front of the camera.
We made it.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
We
made
made it.
it.
We're here.
we try. We have multiple tries. And
Yeah. But we're glad we're here. Ryan, what you been up to this week, man?
Man, we're in the final push of fundraising on our Indiegogo. Obviously, we still have fundraising ongoing through Film Independent, where we're fiscally sponsored. But as far as our Indiegogo campaign, we're in the final 38 hours of our fundraising push on there. And yeah, we've been we've been fighting the good fight.
So, I mean, we can go ahead and plug it right now. If you haven't been able to donate, depending on when you're watching or listening to this, definitely click the links in the description or the comments or wherever. Go to Indiegogo, donate. Even after the Indiegogo campaign is over, like Ryan said, we'll still have the Film Independent um, links available. And you also get a tax benefit from donating because of our partnership with Film Independent. You get a non-profit write off for donating to a nonprofit. So if you haven't already done that, make sure you do that. But we're excited to have Jamari on because Jamari is, well, let you, Ryan, tee this up. Like how does Jamari come into the world of mourning via the world of Ryan Lipscomb? Because this was a cool story to me.
Uh, so, uh, Funny story. First of all, me and Jamari uh, went to grad school together at USC School of Cinematic Arts. So we were in film school together. But our other connection is that we're cousins, um, which was funny because like we're on different sides of the family.
mhm.
uh, so distant cousins, whatever. So it was hilarious to me. Like when I'm walking around campus, I was there a little bit before Jamari got there, and Jamari came up to me and was like, "Hey, I think we're cousins." Which of course I went and confirmed with my mother. you know, um, so yeah, that's kind of how we kind of came into each other's orbit, whatever. And then obviously, Jamar is a super talented producer, and has been for a number of years now. And so, for me, trying to get this project off the ground, get Morning off the ground, get 22 Booker off the ground. My biggest thing was, considering like the whole idea of it was rather terrifying to me. Was trying to get people on the team who were extremely capable and also who I trusted and who I know would have my back when the night is dark and full of terrors. So yeah, that's kind of how I asked Marty to come on, and she thankfully agreed. And so that's kind of what it was from my perspective. Jamar, you gotta tell your side of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a testament to I guess like our like stars aligning of sorts. It's so awesome that like our mothers, still even literally communicate with each other to the point where, they're bragging about their kids and they're like, oh yeah, my kid is in film school at USC and, you know, them being like, well, no, my kid is at film school at USC, and then us kind of finding each other through like all of the family, kind of connections and gossips is awesome. And that has led to, not only Ryan and I working together, but us also like kind of following each other's careers and supporting each other from afar, even up close. And so this project is, I think, a testament to like just our family ties and connections, and just um, probably was going to be, in our story at some point. Like we were always probably going to be destined to work together.
Mhm.
And I'm just excited that we get to work together on this project that is so personal to Ryan, and it's a family oriented story. We didn't get to grow up together. Him growing up in Atlanta and me growing up in the Bay Area, but the fact that we get to share our careers together is awesome. And through our careers, we can support each other, as we, you know, raise our kids and, mourn and grieve and all of those things we can do now and support each other in the best way we can. So yeah, this project was no brainer for me. It was almost like, yeah, let's do it. If we can come together, I think Ryan and I both, um, we have a special heart for family and for making sure that, we share everything that we're doing, our successes, our failures, with our family, and just make sure that, we are staying in touch. So that's, I think, why this was just such a great opportunity for the both of us. Yeah.
And so, Jamar, tell us a little bit about like your journey. How you got started in film. Just like I know you're from Oakland. From the Bay Area, whatever. Just kind of tell us like quick, your journey, how you got to here, how you got to this point, whatever, and like what you've been doing since SC.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, like this story is kind of dedicated to Ryan's father. And I would say my father was actually a big reason why I got into film. My dad wanted to act, and he, was set to move to New York and, pursue an acting career, but he ended up not, following that path and staying in the Bay Area, and taking on various different jobs. And one thing I remember growing up is us, kind of bonding and having quality time while watching films and watching shows. And my dad, he really was a big part of me learning about like what story is, and like who are the, who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, like who are we rooting for in the story, like we would just do that all the time. We would just sit and I didn't know that that was actually kind of preparing me and giving me like an opportunity to pursue film in a different capacity, not so much in front of the screen, but more so behind the camera. And I just love like hearing my family is very animated. They tell stories, and they're like changing their voice, and like you're kind of going along the ride with them. And so I grew up in that kind of environment, and so it was really easy for me to connect to story and to you know want to share that with the people who I loved, and also like the world. And so that kind of got me set on this journey. And I come from a very creative family. I have a twin brother who is an artist himself, and he draws and he's a graphic artist and things like that. And so my parents really nurtured, that side of our lives. And so we started off going to art school. And me, I was just kind of like slow to be in the creative space, but I really had also a brain for, type A kind of personality. And I liked, order and logistics and things to like go right. And then that translated to me wanting to be a producer. So I first was a storyteller, then I brought in the other side of my brain where I liked to have logistics and all that stuff done. Um, and then the leadership and nurturing part kind of came in as I was in film school. I was like, oh, okay, like I really like dealing with, being a safe space, on set. I like taking care of people. I like getting things done and problem solving. So I think like just my family history, but also just kind of what has always been embedded in me, kind of came out through following my journey into film. So that's kind of like a little bit about like what pushed me into the film world.
Hmm. And how'd you end up at SC?
So I I was going to UC Berkeley for undergrad. So it's a really great school. Some may say it's the number one public school in the world. But it wasn't teaching me like the how, it was only teaching me the why when it came to filmmaking. So I knew that I needed to probably go to film school and really um, dive into how to make movies, because I was just kind of copying what I saw other people do. I did some internships and stuff like that, but I really wanted to get my hands on a camera. I really wanted to actually like write stuff, and so I applied to 4 schools, and I got into one, and that was USC, and kind of never looked back from there.
Yeah, I had a similar story, just in terms of like you know going to Howard in DC and majoring in marketing and kind of being in the corporate space, and then like I'm gonna go be a filmmaker, and like going in like I'm complying to the best schools, and like dream school being at NYU, not getting in, but they telling me like if you made the last group before you brought people in for interviews, you almost made it, But then like SC kind of saying, "Oh, we'll take you," So, so yeah, nah, it's you know, thank God for SC in that way, kind of giving filmmakers like us an opportunity. And so since SC, what has the landscape been for you? What you've been up to? What have you been focused on as far as project wise and all that?
Yeah, so since graduating USC, I have kind of gone like the road less traveled, I would say. I didn't want to, dive into, working corporate jobs and, being an assistant or like anything like that. Not to say that they're not great opportunities. I just kind of wanted to, you know, go the independent route. And so
Hmm.
that led me into like a bunch of different jobs, some in tech. So I worked for YouTube and Apple for a little bit. Still never really um, dis uh, like dislocating myself from the film world. Like I was still like working on people's projects, and Ryan and I have a big network from USC. So whenever my friends would be working on a project, I'd jump on and produce. So while I was, working in more of a corporate kind of setting, I was still working on projects.
Hmm.
Independent projects. I would take, pay time off and go and shoot movies and stuff like that. And then I finally like kind of left YouTube and went back into like a production kind of job environment where I was a production manager for a docu series that was produced by Patrice Cullors and Dream Hampton, and that was like my first like kind of gig, like real like project slash gig, after
Hmm.
school. And I met a lot of people and was awesome, because I tend to do a lot of projects in the social justice space. So that was really awesome. And then I started my own company that actually was made digital content for social justice um, and political organizations in 2020 during the election year.
Hmm.
And it was a highly successful. We were able to like Biden and Kamala Harris, and that was an awesome experience. And I just constantly like was working and juggling a business. Had a kid during that time as well. So um, I think here lately, like in like now that we are kind of seeing a little bit outside of the shock of the pandemic. Um, I have been working more and more with emerging filmmakers. I'm currently an executive producer of a program called Find Your People that was started by Issa Rae, Denise Davis, and Talitha Watkins um, for with their organization Color Creative. So I work with a number of young people who are trying to jumpstart their careers, and I'm super excited about that. But I also teach at USC as well, so I'm working with graduates and undergrads. Teaching them and being somewhat of a mentor, helping them, kind of find their journey as well. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on in the last 2 years, really emerging filmmakers. Because I do believe that, it's all about leaving a legacy. And how can you leave a legacy if you're only, working with the people who are in your current, career status? Like,
Mm-hmm.
got to kind of work with some of the young people coming up in order to, like, create that legacy and that build the industry how you want to see it. So
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting about what you were just talking about is just like a lot of people think that like, well, oh, you know, you went to USC Film School, like you're set in, you're good, you know what I'm saying? And like the truth of the matter is like, you know, very few people are able to kind of like, you know, shoot out the cannon right out the gate, come out of SC, even though it's the best film school in the world. You know, there are a few like kind of like, you know, Ryan Coolers and Stephen Capel and stuff like that, who are just kind of like able to just kind of like get their first film off the ground and just go. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of you know luck involved with that. Like you know, most of the people come out see like you know we kind of have to like piece together a career, you know, of you know and kind of slowly kind of build it you know over a number of years before they're actually kind of like in a position where they're actually kind of making you know power moves. It's weird you kind of like look up years later, oh like I'm in the industry, you know what I'm saying, like
yeah,
even I've had that experience whatever where it's like you know I've had opportunities to like kind of make films myself. I had the same opportunities like kind of make films right out of grad school that just happened, you know, one way or another just happened to like go a few degrees this to the left or whatever, a few degrees to the right, so it didn't quite align, whatever. But you know, still kind of like clawing my way in the industry and stuff like that. And like you know, I've had former you know grad school colleagues, whatever, saying, "All right, like you're actually doing pretty good, whatever." I'm like, "Huh, what? What's going on?" Like,
yeah, you
you know,
forget, yeah,
yeah, you know, you're working in writer's room. You worked on Watchmen. You worked on, you know, what I'm saying, like, you know, and you know, and that's true, whatever. And it's like, but yeah, you know, we always kind of like a little bit more. But like I tell, you know, when I've talked to students, you know, kind of the main thing I've imparted, and I say this mainly because like I wish somebody had told me when I was coming out of grad school, whatever, or even when I was in grad school, is that you know, is really, you know, you're worried about trying to get the agent and trying to get the manager and trying to get, you know, that whole thing, whatever. You're worried about like, oh, you know, whether or not this person in the industry notices me or like whether or not this executive notices me, whatever, whatever, or like I get this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is like, you know, the real thing to kind of make it in this industry is like, don't try to chase the industry.
yeah,
Like the best advice I've had and what I've you know garnered whatever is just like you know you're in grad school with a bunch of like-minded people. You know what I mean? You're in film school with a bunch of like-minded people who all want to kind of like build something, whatever. You know, find your people in film school. Look to the left of you, look to the right of you. You know, it's that old thing. Like look to the left of you, look to the right of you. Like one of you not gonna not gonna be whatever. But no, what it should be, look to the left and look to the right of you. This is
yeah,
your you know what I'm saying? These are your people. Come together, support each other, and build your legacy together. You know what I mean? Because what will happen is inevitably is you'll kind of like look up and like you'll you know realize that all your friends are like slowly but surely been climbing the ladder, same as you, and slowly but surely you guys are running the industry. You
yeah,
know, and that's kind of how has been you know my experience. That you know I'm sure it's been your experience, whatever. like we know some, the same people, but it's like, but yeah, it's it's one of those things where just you guys stay the path, stay the course, and kind of just like, hey, you want to make something, go make it, go try to figure it out, go get your people who's like support you and whom you support, and try to do it. At least that's been my experience, and kind of like why one of the main reasons like I was trying to do morning was mainly about like kind of going back to basics, because
Yeah,
the idea was like I had been early on in my career, I was chasing the industry, and the industry was like, it seemed to be right there for me. You know what I mean? But things happen, financing falls out, all those things kind of happen, whatever. You know, I ended up working in writers' rooms. It was great because it kept me in LA, kept me working, kept my bills paid. You know what I'm saying? But I've always still been wanting to direct. And so, it was a matter of like, okay, like, I had a few projects I've been trying to get off the ground, on a feature standpoint. And it just, one thing or another, you know what I mean? Lots of things have happened in intervening years, strikes,
right.
pandemics, you know, Writers Guild actions against agencies, all these different things that occurred. And so, yeah, like I kind of got back to like, I just want to, you know, uh, put a film together, get my people together, and just make a movie, which I should have done early in my career, whatever. Instead of like, oh, with the industry was like, oh, right this way, Mr. Lipscomb, like we'll help you make your movie. You know what I mean? And I got the agents, I got managers, kind of off the gate, whatever. But it wasn't, necessarily the right path for me. And so, what's great about what you were talking about, Jamari, is just like the idea of like, look, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you kind of find your way. I went, um, I had to stay where I went back to corporate America for a second. You know what I'm saying? Like we all kind of have those broadsides, whatever, and like you hear some like really great filmmakers, who had like that same like roundabout journey
Yeah,
where they weren't able to kind of get something going. Like for years and years, nothing was going on until they finally said, "I'm just gonna make it happen," and do it. And so that's kind of been my thing with Sweetie Booker, just kind of get my people together and let's build something together. And just building the ground up. And I also think, I've said this on other podcasts. I think this is a really interesting time in the industry. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that. Just like if it's weird because like the narrative out there is like Hollywood is on fire, right?
yes,
All falling apart, right? AI is coming, it's all falling apart, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Interest rates are high. Market's crashing. Everything's bad. You know what I mean? But for me, like, and I'm curious to hear how you feel about it. It just feels like there's opportunity. It feels like the industry is ripe for opportunity and ripe for change and ripe for something new and a new way of thinking. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
absolutely. There's always this age old saying to network across. And I think actually that's probably important, like to let people know about that as far as decorum,
Mhm.
because yeah, you'll get opportunities like you were saying, like like these opportunities handed to you where you're meeting probably like your idol or your mentor, or you're meeting these people, and you automatically want to say like, oh, can you help me out with something, you know what I mean? But you might not be necessarily ready
Mhm.
to take on that next step. So it's important to work with the people who are in your your grasp, and that you kind of have come up through the trenches with, um,
Mhm.
versus trying to ask for a handout from somebody who is you know well into their careers and things like
Mhm.
that. And I think that's kind of thinking about that mentality that you said, where it's a marathon, not a sprint. Because when you are building and nurturing relationships with the people that you came up with, then you have more of a foundation, and the relationships aren't so transactional. and it's not like, what can you do for me? Because we've obviously, like you said, Ryan, we know a lot of the same people, and we've seen people, come through the industry in different ways.
Yeah.
And I really do think that like the best type of working relationships are people that you can trust, and the people that you have seen um, through all of the things, like
Hmm.
all the highs and lows, because there will be highs and lows. There's like, life is like that. So why wouldn't your career be like that? It's
Hmm.
going to be a bunch of roller coasters throughout your time.
Yeah.
So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you network across and you build relationships and focus on that more so than where you're at in your career. You know,
Hmm.
and then as far as the industry itself, yeah, I think the industry is an interesting place, but it's not like it hasn't been like this before. It's not like there haven't been strikes before, there hasn't been struggle before. Um, I for one, and this is probably, I always have to be reminded of this, by the way. Like my boyfriend literally just reminded me the other day, where like when the industry is in like a bad place, like even during COVID, like
Hmm.
things were rough for a lot of people, but for some reason, like I was staying afloat. Like I was fine. Like I almost made $1 million in my first year as a company working on PSAs and, you know, political campaigns and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And even doing content around COVID. Like I took something that was a huge, like an unprecedented time, and I made a way, and created a way to get a story out,
Yep.
and create information for communities that needed that information, that could debunk some of the conspiracy theories and things like that. So just knowing that if you're able to within the struggle survive,
Hmm.
that you will continue to be able to do that. It's not about like, oh, this is the place I'm in right now. Just know that you're not going to stay there. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, what was helpful for me too, because like it's weird. You go through periods, especially like, I mean, you know me, like I've always been like pretty ambitious about the things I wanted to do and where I wanted to be in the industry and stuff like that. Like going back to grad school and stuff like that. And so, I did everything I could to kind of put myself in that position to be successful. Right. And then when things didn't go exactly the way I had planned, whatever, that was very like, you know, a very rough thing that I had to go through in terms of like trying to like navigate my way through that. Even as like, okay, financing fell apart for my first movie, cool, and then I went and sold a pilot to HBO, whatever. But then like but then the person I sold the pilot to left the company, whatever, and my executive also left the company, whatever. So then new regime comes in. Oh, what's that? Okay, whatever. Like cool.
mhm.
We're gonna pass on that, whatever. But do you want to meet Damon Lindelof? Great. You know what I'm saying? But it's gonna be a Riserton job, whatever. Like, can you deal with that? Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like the ups and downs. Like if you just try to navigate what the career is, whatever, and try to find your place in the industry, and it's tough too, just from the standpoint of like, you know, uh, like I said, it's peaks and valleys. And you go through it, whatever, and you just try to stay in the game. And like, you try to say like, okay, I had enough bites to the apple where I know that I shouldn't quit. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Or like, I write something, somebody responds to it. So okay, it's like I'm not trash. So it's like okay, like
Yeah, some encouragement, right? Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, you just kind of put one through it. And I've told other people even when they're going through rough periods, whatever. It's like if you put the main thing is like put one foot in front of the other.
Mhm.
If you're just like every day you're putting one foot in the other and you're doing what you need to do, what you're supposed to do, in the day, no matter what you're going through, you'll come out the other end. And that's really important. That's really important for me. You know what I'm saying? In terms of just like, I've told you know, recent grads kind of going through like their rough period. Because it's always rough for recent grads, kind of because you're like, I have this degree. What is it for? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I am unhireable. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You know, and it's hard to get these jobs in the industry, whatever. And it's like, look, just like first of all, take care of your mental, right? That's first and foremost. So do whatever you got to do that. What goes along with it, taking your mental is making sure your bills are paid. So like, don't worry about like I have to get the perfect industry job, get a job, you
Yeah.
know, um, and try to do it that way, whatever. And then just like look, and then just like work on your craft, work on your art, whatever. If you're a writer, continue to write. If you're a director, you know what I mean, like try to put a project together, whatever, and get some people together. If you're a producer, find you a talented writer and director and try to build with them, you know. And that's I mean that's what it is, you know. And the thing is like, you know, it's been like strange in the industry like even the last 10 years since we've been out, where it's like, you know, it's just been like, you know, the industry's kind of been in a certain mode,
Hmm.
um, where it's all IP and you know we have to have sequels like that, and like nobody's really looking, you know, to take a lot of risk involved, whatever. And like all that has kind of been in the mix, whatever, you know. But like the thing that's been exciting to me is that like it feels like that time like the 80s and you know in the 60s before that, that kind of like where it felt like the industry was in a kind of in a stagnant place. It went through a period of transition, and then we got this boom of creativity,
Yeah.
right? So that begat, you know, the 70s, you know, the creative boom of the 70s, whatever, with this new, you know, this new wave of American filmmakers kind of like changed the industry, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And the 80s begat, you know, the indie boom, the 90s, kind of same thing, whatever. And to me, like right now feels like the same thing, you know, which is why kind of encouraged me to like try to like take this leap. Like I'm just gonna go uh make this film, you know, and do it from the ground up, and like just, you know, be completely independent about it and build a company, whatever, and try to do what I want to do. Because like I've been in a bunch of meetings with executives, whatever, and like, you know, it's sometimes it's been there are really smart executives and really smart executives who want to make good stuff, whatever, and are handcuffed for one reason or another, you know. But you know, it has been very discouraging on some level, being in those meetings sometimes, whatever, right? And
Mm.
so for me, it's like, okay, like you know, that's cool. Maybe we got to do it outside of the normal mainstream in terms of making interesting things, making things we want to make as artists and creators,
Mhm.
right? I think, you know, for us, it's like, okay, now we're in a mode where we kind of can be at the vanguard of like this new wave of the industry,
Yeah.
um, of filmmaking and creativity and art, you know. And I think that's like the, you know, that's been my North Star
Yeah.
in terms of like trying to make this movie.
Yeah. No, that's a really great way to kind of look at the industry in a very macro from a very macro lens, where you can literally say to yourself like, you know, let's look back at history and let's look back at what, you know, certain circumstances produced, right? Like, you know, when you think about, you know, black exploitation films, and when you think about like 90s boom of a bunch of really dope, you know, still highly, you know, resonant in our culture, like those films, like your Boys in the Hood or your um you know, Friday, or you know, or you look at, you know, and these folks did it very
Yeah.
independently, um,
Mhm.
and you know, there was an audience, and you know, we can, or like I said, we can never, um, you know, like cast out our audience. And you know, once we have the mind to make something for ourselves, then we know that, you know, someone else will want to watch it too. You know, there's so many things that, you know, we can be stories that we can be telling, and perspectives we can be, you know, putting on the big screen.
Mhm.
Studio execs just aren't really, you know, aren't on the lookout for it because they're not connected to our communities like we are.
their default is to say no, and it costs them nothing to say no, right?
Mhm.
It costs them a lot to say yes to something, right?
Mhm.
And so this is the issue with gatekeepers in
Mhm.
general, especially in artists, whatever. Like it's one of the things like I had to get used to. This was the idea of like you stop asking for permission from people who are not inclined to help. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, and so from that standpoint, like I could be as talented as I want to be, you know what I mean? But how it is very reactive and not proactive, right? By design, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, we are in despite what we all say, we are still in a business for profit, right?
Yeah.
We want to tell stories, stuff like that, but we also still we need to have a return on investment, whatever. Otherwise, we can't tell any more stories, right? So that's
Yeah.
always going to be concerned, whatever, especially for these big companies, right? So, like, that being said, like, it's hard to take big risks with new talent. It's hard to take big risks with unproven talent. It's hard to take big risks, even with like proven talent who like likes to operate outside the mainstream, right? you know,
Right.
like you have the best filmmaker in the world, whatever, but like they want to make a little weird, obscure movie, whatever. It's like that's tough. Who's this for, right? You know, and truth be told, it might be for the culture, right? You never know, and it's hard, for an executive to kind of like. Uh, it's hard for most executives. Some really good executives can see that, but like it's hard for most executives to kind of like see the forest of trees because they're just trying to keep their jobs like everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's kind of on us to kind of like force the issue as artists in terms of just like, okay, I'm gonna make this movie. I'm gonna try to like it garner as much support as I can. I'm gonna build my own audience, you know, um, and we're gonna try to like raise the money and make something interesting and cool. You know what I mean? And hopefully from that we can have a proof of concept, and people help us make the next thing that's interesting and cool, and so on and so forth. And so like that's hopefully what we are doing here, are beginning here, and trying to start. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's early days, and it's a long road and journey to kind of gain that kind of support because like you have to earn people's trust. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting time to me, and I just think like for me, it feels like a lot of artists are in this mode where it's like, okay, like how do we create a way where there seems to be no way in the business? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I think.
oh, go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
No, no, you after you.
I think one of the craziest thing, the most interesting thing to me about where we are now, um, going off of what Jamari said about some of the films from a macro level some of the waves that we've seen, like you talked about, Ryan, the industry go in and seeing how we're seemingly back at a place similar to where we've been in the past. The thing that makes it so much more exciting for me is that we didn't have the distribution models back then that we have now, and gatekeeping was so much more important, or getting past gatekeepers was so much more important then than it was now. I I'm honestly kind of fanboying a little bit over Angel Studios model. Are y'all familiar with Angel Studios? And they did like some faith-based films, like I think The Chosen was one of the series that they created, and Sound of Freedom, or Cry Freedom, not Cry Freedom,
It's down
Sound
to
of
freedom
Freedom.
because you talking about the pay it forward model.
Yeah, so the pay it forward model combined with the equity crowdfunding model, combined with the have our own OTT and release and distribute on there to those who raise their hands with the pay it forward and raise their hands with the equity crowdfunding, then you're already plugged into our OTT. And so it's like, yeah, we can do it ourselves. The irony with that is, the story goes, as I heard it, that they pitched their series and stuff to lots of people, Amazon, Netflix, a number of places. And of course, they got the same no that most people get when they're shooting projects like that. And they went forward with the pay it forward model, the equity crowdfunding model. And after it was very successful from a ground, from kind of like that groundswell level, Then Amazon came back and was like, "Yeah, we want it, and we'll be happy to take the non-exclusive license to it. Yeah, keep doing it over there, but we want it also." And so now you can see it on other platforms like Amazon and Netflix. And so they ultimately won both ways. They
Hmm.
proved their concept and then took millions in a licensing deal with the other people because everybody in Hollywood wants to get on a moving train. So when the train's not moving, they're like, "Nah, we're good." But
Hmm.
but then when they see that it's a clear winner, they'll still cough up just to be a part of that movement. And so I think opportunities like that are crazy exciting for filmmakers like us who have a view that maybe mainstream Hollywood isn't quite ready to put money behind or quite excited about until we make them excited about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's really good to know, and it's also good to know the different models that are out there now.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't even really familiar with the pay it forward model until I heard about them. But it
Hmm.
makes total sense to me because a lot of businesses in like on Main Street do that. Like they won't release a product. You'll hear about pre-sales to a new sneaker or pre-sales to a vehicle. I mean, how many pre-sales did Tesla get to the Cybertruck or the whatever? Like
Mm.
they were that truck wasn't in production when people were paying however much they were paying to like reserve one. But they
Mhm.
used the reserve money as the money they as the seed funds to actually start making the truck. So when Angel Studios came out, they were like, "We got these 5 movies. Which ones do y'all want to see?" And they're like, "Oh, we want to see that one. And here's our money." Then it's like, "Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. You built your audience before you ever like went into."
Production.
So I mean, it's brilliant when you think about it. I don't. I mean, I guess it wouldn't work for big studios, but like for guys on the ground, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, and because I get like a lot of like indie producers that I've talked to, like the kind of like the ongoing question is they're all thinking about creatively about distribution models, right? Because we don't really as artists and filmmakers we all grew up on going to the theater, right? And we still all believe in the theater, like we believe in that communal experience for movies, whatever. Like it's still the best way to watch a film. You know what I mean? And streaming. As far as we're concerned, like streaming has kind of like wrecked traditional business models in Hollywood, which is why we kind of is kind of like where we're at now. It led us to the point we're at now, whatever. And so, for me, I had a conversation and then we say kind of jokingly, like how do we save Hollywood? You know what I'm saying? What I mean? But we're kind of joking about it, but like we're for real. Like, what are the new? How can we get our films out there? How can we get them into? How can we still make money in this way? How do we build it in a way that's equitable for us, for our investors, for the industry at large? How do we lead the way on that, right? And we're all kind of throwing out like what like new ideas and trying to figure that out because you know the studios right now seem to be in a kind of level of stasis. Just from private equity and from Wall Street, stuff like that. And so it's like what do we do now in terms of like we still want to make interesting films, we still want to invest in this art form. And to us, it's still an art form, right? And like, and the thing is, like, it's never going to go away. People still, we're not really competing with TikTok. We're not really competing with Instagram and like that. Like, that there's a place for that, but like we're doing something different. We want to tell stories, right?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
the most important thing. And nobody's ever going to get tired of storytelling, right? You
yeah. Like
know,
that's a business.
Exactly, exactly. From since we were all sitting around the campfire, that has been, you know, a valuable form of entertainment, or whatever. And so it's not going away. So it's like how do we exist in the world, and continue to monetize it, continue to make sure it still exists, and continue to make sure people have the communal experience in the theater. And so that's the question now. And I think like I said with 22 Booker, with Morning, we're kind of making headway with that and trying to be on the forefront of that. Jamari has to go in a little bit. Just like so, like last question for Jamari. What's your favorite movie?
Ooh, why didn't you prepare me for this? Well, I always go back to this one movie that I saw in a African American like film class at UC Berkeley.
Mm,
Um, and this film, when I watched it, there's a couple of films like this. But when I watched it, I just thought it was just so visceral, but also just so simple.
mm,
Um, and when I watch it today, it still holds up. It literally still holds up. And this film is called Killer of Sheep. It was directed by Charles Burnett. And he came out of the whole UCLA, film crew, along
mm.
with, you know, a bunch of different other, like Jaime Guillermo, and just all these different amazing filmmakers that came out of
Yeah.
that. Um, and it's really just it's like the the underbelly of what's happening in this community um is so it's not a part of the story, but it is. So the film, it takes place in Watts, right after the riots, and um we follow this family that's stricken by poverty, and you know the the father is a I, I don't know that he's it like he goes to like a sheep facility, and like he like shaves the hair, and like he's kind of a butcher. It's
Hmm.
a difficult job,
Yeah.
but you see his work life a little bit, but you also really are invested in his home life, and he has a wife and kids, and um you just see their everyday life, and it taught me so much about filmmaking from a verite, perspective. And
Hmm.
I really use verite in every film that I do, because I really believe that you don't have to tell actors how to um, be themselves, and how to be a character that is so real to them. Um,
Hmm.
so, like, there's not a lot of dialogue in this film. There's moments where it's just silence, and just see like them just playing out their daily lives. And it took a long time for Charles Burnett to get the film out. I think he shot in like the 70s or something like that, and
Yeah.
it didn't actually release until like the 90s,
Hmm.
because he has like one of my favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire songs on in there, and he was not taking it out. He has Reasons in there.
Hmm.
Um, he really wanted to get the music cleared to like be able to release it, and so he waited until he could release it with the music he wanted. But I just love that film. I love Charles Burnett, and he's a very like unsung hero to the black filmmaking experience. And yeah, like if you've ever heard of the movie or seen it, like let me know what you think. But I still watch it from time to time, and I actually watched it at the Academy Museum recently, and Charles Burnett was there, and like it really does still hold up. Like I just watch it and I see things that I didn't see before, and actually, like the older I get, the more I'm connected to it, because I'm just like, oh, I've experienced this, or oh, like I think now I have lived more life to be able to um, relate to a lot more of the story. So, yeah.
That's a perfect way to wrap this up. Charles Burnett's Killer of Sheep, classic, classic, classic. Film. And also just like right in line with what we're talking about. In terms of just like we're
Yeah.
gonna get this done.
Yeah.
You
By
know what
any,
I'm saying?
yeah.
By hook or
Yeah.
by crook, whatever. As a perfect way to wrap it up. Uh, Thank you so much, Jamari, for being on with us at the 22 Booker podcast. We really appreciate it. We are going to get morning done. The movie's getting made. To all who are listening, please donate, uh, whether that is through Indiegogo or through uh, our Film Independent, where you can make a tax deductible donation. Um, and you should just be a part of this movement because we're on the ground floor. You should just be a part of it because we're going places. Thank you so much, Jamari. Stay on for a minute after we close this out, please, so the thing can upload. Just a reminder that. Thanks so much, Jamari. It's been great. Really appreciate you coming on with us today. Again,
If people follow your journey, Jamari, is there a place where they can go? Is there handles or website or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or
so
content to check out?
thank you for that. I actually like don't have a Finsta or but I usually have people like just go to J Perry Films on Instagram, and then my company Hush Harbor Media also has an Instagram and a website. So you can more like life events and career updates are on J Perry Films, but if you just want to like kind of find out more about kind of the work that I do in the nonprofit area and political organizing, you can go to Hush Harper Media and follow that.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thanks again, Jamari. And make sure you guys tune in for the next episode of 22 Booker Podcast.